Hi friends, thanks for joining me today. I have got a project that I'm really looking forward to sharing with you today. In April, I was a guest artist on Shimelle's blog, and I am so looking forward to sharing the process video with you here today. So to start off with, I've got this sheet of patterned paper, and it's from photoplay paper from the Little One collection. And I'm just using this giant heart template that I had made for a previous layout, and I just kept it safe because I knew it would come in handy for something. And I'm just using it as a template to draw a heart shape on my piece of pattern paper, which I'm just going to be using my craft knife to cut out. Now I've opted for this really subtle patterned paper, so it's mostly white with just some grey and black accent details, and I really just wanted something subtle but with a pattern because I'm going to be adding lots and lots of colour to this page, and I didn't want anything that's too conflicting with all the colour that I'm going to be adding. Now I've grabbed a sheet of Vicky Bouton's foundations paper, and I'm just kind of tracing that heart shape onto that because I want to add some colour to that page, and knowing exactly where the heart is going to be will help me concentrate my colours in the correct place. But before I add my colour, I want to do a little bit of stenciling. So I'm using my photo and my title piece just as a guide so that I have an idea of where I want to add my stenciling. I'm using some Ranger opaque white texture paste, and I'm just stenciling through this lovely heart stencil, which is from Bramble Fox, and I'm just adding these hearts to the page, and then I'll be adding colour over that. So I use my photo just to kind of make sure that I'm getting those hearts above the photo so that they're not all going to be hidden behind, and I dot some of those all over the page so that there's a good scattering of them for some added texture in the background. Now I love using Vicky Bouton's foundations paper when I'm doing mixed media because it means I don't need to add gesso to my cardstock. I don't need to prep it in any way. It is really good for adding colour, especially wet mediums, because it doesn't absorb the wetness immediately, so it allows you to work with the colour on top of the paper without it being absorbed straight away. So I'm taking a rainbow of distress ink colours, and I'm just going to be swooshing them across my page, going in rainbow sequence, but starting with the darker blue. Now I'll list all the colours for you in the description box. I've managed to collect a lovely rainbow of these little ink pads, and I absolutely love them. I think my next collection is going to need to be the re-inkers because I am definitely going to need to re-ink these very soon. So I love how when I swoosh it over those stencils, it leaves a little bit of a white border around the hearts and really kind of makes them stand out on the page. I really love this technique for adding instant vibrant colour, and it's really quick and easy, and I feel so effective. Now, if you don't have distress ink pads, distress oxide pads will work just as well. I've used the same technique using distress oxides. And if you don't have the little mini ink pads, the bigger ink pads will also work. You'll just get a broader stripe of colour. Now, you might notice for the yellow, orange, red and pink stripes, I'm not going right to the top of the arch of the heart. I'm leaving kind of those swooshes unfinished, but just with like a kind of fading colour towards the end. And once I add that black and white pattern paper back over it, the left side of the heart will be kind of complete, whereas the right, as you can see there, is a little bit incomplete, kind of like it's fading into the top right. And I kind of like that effect. I like the visual texture of the swoosh marks of the ink pads. Now I'm moving on, and I am going to be adding more colour to another sheet of Vicky Bouton's foundations paper, and this time I'm going to be adding a little bit of water. Now this, I'm just really basically making a piece of pattern paper that I can cut lots of florals out of. So this is really such an easy and quick way to make a colourful piece of pattern paper to then either punch shapes out of, or cut, or die cut, or even use your electronic cutting machine. So I've swished the ink pads in rainbow sequins down the page, and then I'm just taking a wet paintbrush and kind of blending those colors in together. I'm not totally wetting the entire page. You can still see some of those swoosh marks and that lovely texture, but then you can also kind of see the watercolor effect of the colors blending into each other, which I absolutely love. I love the combination of the two together. So once this page is dry and I'm happy with it, I'm adding in a few water splatters there for extra interest. And yeah, once this is completely dry, I'm going to just really be cutting it apart using these lovely little die cuts. These are from a Sizzix die cut set that I got quite a while ago, and it really doesn't matter which florals you choose to use. What I like about these is there's various different sizes, so I'm going to be layering these with the biggest floral at the back and then a smaller floral sitting on top, and then I'm going to raise up the petals. So I'm just cutting out a variety of the different flower shapes. I'm just cutting off a piece so that it can fit through my Sizzix Big Shot, and I'm going to cut those out. I'll work systematically through the entire page until it's completely used up, and then I'll start sticking all the florals together. Like I mentioned a short while ago, if you don't have a Big Shot, you could use an electronic cutting machine like a Silhouette or a Cricut, but also you could just doodle florals and cut them out, or stamp florals and cut them out, or use punches. So there's so many different ways that you can create these florals using various different methods. Now I've got my little daughter's hand there as my little handy helper. Oh, I just love that little hand, and I'm just starting to build those little flowers and see how they look. Now I've got a lovely big array of flowers in all the different colors, and I'm just using my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive just to add a dot of glue in the center and stick the two layers together. Now I've got a little bit of the rainbow paper left, and I'm just going in with my punch and just punching out some teeny tiny florals so that I've got a good variety of sizes. Now you can see I've got various different types of florals with, you know, different shaped petals, and I really wanted that just so that there was nice variety in the background. I wanted a bit of a wild flower look, and just a good variety of florals. Now I've got these beautiful little kind of raindrop, I think they're called bubbles actually, bubble gems from Little Things by Lucy's Cards, and I'm just adding those to the center of each of the little florals just for a little bit of extra interest and a little bit of sparkle and shimmer, and I'm just raising up those petals just to give a three-dimensional feel to each of them. So each of the petals from the larger and the top layer of the smaller flower are all raised, and then I even take the teeny tiny little flowers and lift those petals up too. I want all of them to be raised off the page and kind of looking quite lifelike and vibrant when they're sitting on the page. So here we can have a little closer look at all those pretty flowers, and I just absolutely love them. Making these flowers is probably one of my favorite things to do for a page. Now I've added some stitching, a double layer of stitching all the way around that heart outline, and I'm just gently distressing all the way around just for a little bit of extra texture. And in a moment we'll get a peek of those two together, and I just love that. I love that vibrant bright background paired with the really subtle patterned paper. Now I'm just popping my photo on there and that title piece, which is a cut file from Pear Tree Cut Files, and you can see I've cut it out 4 times. And the reason I've done that is because I want to turn it into a bit of a chipboard piece. Now I don't have any chipboard and I don't want to attempt cutting it with my cutting machine, so I have cut it out 3 times from just regular white cardstock, and I'm adding some of that same Nuvo Deluxe adhesive on the background, and I'm just layering them all together. I think I end up only using 3 of the 4 cut files on top of each other, and then that creates a thick enough title piece for me, and it feels quite sturdy. I love using cut files in this way, or if I've cut out a title piece using a metal die, just layering a few on top of each other gives it a little bit of extra strength, and I think it helps it stand out a little bit more too. Now I want to raise that pattern paper up on top of the colourful background, just so that there's like a bit of a gap between the two. So I'm just using some craft foam, and I'm just using some double-sided tape with it to allow it to adhere to the pattern paper. You can obviously use double-sided craft foam if you have that. I just had regular craft foam without any adhesive handy, so I used my double-sided tape to make it stick. So I've stuck that down, and I do love the slight shadow between the two. And now I'm just going in with my photos and kind of seeing where I'd like to place them. I've opted to print my photos in black and white so that they're not competing with the background, and that they've got their own opportunity to shine on the page. I feel that if they were in colour, it would be quite a lot to focus on at once, and I feel in black and white those photos really do stand out against that bright background. So now I'm just coming in with all those florals and kind of placing them tone on tone, and kind of working upwards with those swoosh marks. You can see I'm just dotting a few off that heart at the top there. One of the reasons I decided to do that is because I got a bit of like pink ink on the edge of my heart, just underneath where that yellow flower is, and I wanted to cover it up. And then I quite liked those flowers kind of swooshing off the page there. Now it's time to get this stuck down. As usual, I have placed everything and not stuck anything down, so I'm going to work on that now and hopefully not have to take the whole page apart. Now I want to add a thin border of tissue paper around each of my photos. So I just added some double-sided tape, my tape runner on the back of the photo, and I've just torn little strips of tissue paper. Sometimes I do just add a sheet of tissue paper behind the photo and then I trim it with my scissors, but I really wanted a nice torn edge, and I find the easiest way for me to get a nice torn edge is if I just tear strips first. I don't usually have much success of sticking the tissue paper on the back and then tearing the edges, so I like to do it this way. Now I want to raise those photos up as well, so I am going to use again some craft foam and my tape runner just to stick it down. And you may notice on the tissue paper behind the photos I've added 2 layers of tissue paper behind that large photo, and I just love that kind of layering effect that's really quite subtle, especially with the bright background. I love using tissue paper because it still allows some of the colour to peek through, and it's really soft and gentle, and I especially like using it when there's lots of colour in the background. So I'm just going in and adding some triangles of craft foam behind each of these photos, and then the rest of the photo is just going to rest on that black and white patterned paper. I was so excited to be invited to be a guest artist on Shimelle's blog. I absolutely love Shimelle's work. When I started scrapbooking, the Never Grow Up collection of hers had been out for a little while, and I absolutely loved it. It was everything I was looking for in a scrapbooking collection, and just so inspired me. And through her collection I discovered Shimelle and all of her videos, and she's provided endless inspiration for myself, and I just love everything that she creates. So to be on her blog was such an honor and a real highlight of my scrapbooking journey. I obviously had to choose some of my favorite things for the page that I created for her blog, which includes bright colors, DIY embellishments, and my 2 precious babies. These photos were taken the night before their 6th birthday, so their last cuddles with me when they were 5, and I always take a photo like this the night before their birthday, and they're such precious moments. They grow far too quickly. So if you would like to see that blog post, I'd be so grateful if you popped along. I have added the link for the blog in the description box below. So while I was jabbering away, I stuck down my title using some thin strips of double-sided craft foam. Those strips are from scrapbook.com, and I love them for raising up cut files. And now I'm just sticking down all those florals. I'm using clear silicone glue from my local craft store. If you're in the UK, you can find it at Hobbycraft. I first started using silicone as a child. I used to do lots of card making using stamps when I was about 9 or 10 years old, and I always used to use my dad's stash of silicone sealant that he would use for DIY projects. So I started using this, oh goodness, 30 years ago now, and it's one of my favorite things for adding dimension. Now I've got these lovely little delicate leaf pieces that I've used my electronic cutting machine, my Silhouette, to cut them out just in white cardstock. These are from Pear Tree Cut Files, and I'm just adding one little bunch of leaves to kind of each of the photos to kind of create a little cluster which forms a visual triangle around my photos and title, kind of like drawing your focus to the center of the page. I'm going to be adding some journaling to my page today. I don't always add my journaling in my videos, but I have done today. I have typed it all out and printed it on my printer at home, and I'm just cutting out each line of text, and I'm going to be sticking that onto the black and white patterned paper to the left of my title. Printing it in black and white really helps it kind of tone in with that pattern paper that I've used, and keeps it quite subtle, but it's still there so that the story is captured. Now, once that's stuck down, I still feel like I need to add a little something to the page, and I decide to add some little stamped butterflies. So I'm just going to add 3. I'm using these lovely butterfly stamps from Pink Fresh Studios. There's about 8 different butterflies that are on one kind of photopolymer stamp sheet, and I don't know if you're supposed to do this, but I just cut them apart so that I can use them individually. And I've chosen 3 lovely little butterflies, and I've stamped them just in plain black ink on some scrap white cardstock, and I'm going to fussy cut them out to add them to those little clusters of leaves with each of the photos. I do want to add a little bit of shimmer to each of those butterflies. So I've got a lovely iridescent glitter pen from scrapbook.com, and it's kind of like a brush marker. So it's a glitter brush marker, and I'm just going to brush on some sparkle. You can't really see the sparkle at the moment. It kind of comes out almost like water, but with a beautiful shimmer to it, and it goes on so easily. And there's a close-up, you can see a hint of the shimmer. It really is just very pretty and subtle, and I do that with each of the butterflies just to add a little bit of sheen, and then I'm going to stick them down using a few blobs of silicone glue just to raise those wings up like the butterflies are in flight. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope that you've enjoyed seeing this page come together, and that something you've seen has given you a new idea or has inspired a new idea and gets you creating. As I said, I absolutely loved creating this page. It includes some of my absolutely favorite elements, one of which is these gorgeous colors, and I just absolutely loved every minute of making this page. It brought me so much joy. So thank you so much for joining me. You can also find me on Instagram at Handmade Happy by Monique. And please do pop along to Shimelle's blog. She has been so generous in sharing her platform with so many talented creators from around the world, and I feel really, really honored to be among them. I have linked the blog post up for you below. If you've enjoyed this video, I would be so grateful if you chose to subscribe to my channel, and please do say hi in the comments. I would love to hear from you. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!